Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on the Pathfinder role-playing game system. We're almost done with the book, we're continuing on with special abilities. So let's dive deeper into these. So the Death Attack. The Death Attack is an attack that allows the target to effectively make a fortitude save. If they make it, they're fine. If they fail it, they die. As simple as that. It's an attack where you save or die. Now the fact is the Death Attack will reduce you to death regardless of your current hit point totals. You will not go into any kind of negatives where you will be dying and able to be recovered. The fact is that you cannot be restored to life through certain types of magic once you've been affected by a Death Attack. And if you do have the Death Ward spell, you are immune to Death Attacks. Interesting little fact there. Now some spells and undead creatures drain life energy away from you. This is referred to as getting a negative level. There are two types, temporary and permanent. Regardless, both of them instill penalties upon you. Both types of negative levels give you a cumulative -1 to attacks, saves, ability checks, combat maneuver defense, and combat maneuver bonus, and skills for every negative level you get. So -1 to all of those things each time. You also get a cumulative -5 hit points to both your total hit points and your current hit points each time you gain a negative level. And as I said, these stack. Now, temporary negative levels are just that. They are temporary. They allow you a save after a day of the same DC that it was to originally get that negative level in order to overcome it. It is important to note that temporary negative levels, if they become equal to your current hit dice, that means class levels plus any kind of hit dice you might have from being a special creature, you die instantaneously. It kills you off. Any level-dependent material that you have, that its effects depend on your level, including spells, is reduced by your reduction in your negative levels. The more you get, the more your level-dependent abilities also reduce. The fact is, though, that spellcasters do not use any spells or slots from gaining negative levels. Now, permanent negative levels work exactly the same as temporary, except you have no save to remove them. The fact is, they also remain after you've died. If I die and come back to life, and I had permanent negative levels before I die, I still have them. If my permanent negative levels equals to my hit points, I die like with the temporary, but I cannot be resurrected easily. The fact is that once someone tries to resurrect me, they have a single round to cast a restoration or more powerful spell in order to remove a permanent negative level from me and save my life. Right then, a single round after the resurrection magic is cast. So that is the only way to remove permanent negative levels, restoration or higher magic. This also does remove temporary negative levels, but those are more temporary anyway. Now, immunity effectively means that a certain type of attack, a certain type of energy, does not deal damage to this creature. If I have immunity to, let's say, cold damage does nothing to me. It is important to note that certain immunities go with certain vulnerabilities. Immunity to fire means you're vulnerable to cold. Immunity to cold means you're vulnerable to fire. Vulnerability is the opposite of immunity. It means that a certain type of attack deals me more damage. If we're using the example of cold, if I'm hit with a cold attack, I will take no more damage. The amount more damage is half more, 50% more, which means if my damage I'd be taking is 4, it would instead be 6. 50% of 4 is 2, half of it is 2, added to that 4 gives me a 6 total damage that I'm taking from cold when everybody else is taking 4. It doesn't matter if I get a save against this, and if I did have a save, whether I succeed or fail, immunity and vulnerability both apply just as equally. Now, resistance to something. Resistance is similar to immunity, except rather than removing the damage entirely, it reduces it by a certain number. Resistance will give a number associated with it. 5, 10, 20. Whenever they're exposed to that certain type of damage, if we say cold for example again, it reduces that amount of damage. If it reduces it to 0, then the damage effectively does nothing that would disrupt me. I'm not taking any damage that would disrupt me. I don't have to worry about something, let's say I'm concentrating. If I take 0 damage from this attack, I don't have to make a concentration check. It's not technically affecting me. It's important to note that resistances from multiple sources do not stack with each other. Now, the other thing I want to talk about today is fear. So fear is an important one to talk about because it's just that. It's fear. The fact is that it normally is associated with a will save to overcome a fear effect. And there are 3 levels of fear that you can possibly face. Shaken is the most basic type of fear that you can encounter. Once you are shaken, you get a -2 to attacks, saves, skills, and ability scores. So you just get a little bit of penalty. You're kind of like, oh God, oh. Frightened, you flee from that source as quickly as you can. Now, the thing about frightened is you can control where you're fleeing to, but the object is for you to get away as fast as you can from whatever just caused you to be afraid. Once you are out of sight, out of hearing it, you calm down. You are still under the effect of that being frightened as long as the time that is associated with that being frightened remains. So if that creature comes back into sight or hearing, you'll once again be fleeing. But as long as you don't see it, you can act normally, as long as you don't have it filling you with fright. Now, it is important to note here that if you can't flee from it, if you're cornered, you are able to fight against it. You're able to fight back against this thing that is filling you with dread. Panicked is the worst of them. For both of these other ones, frightened and panicked, you still have the penalties from being shaken. But this one, you run away. You run away as quickly as you can, as fast as you can, in a direction straight away from that creature. There is no measurement. You're not controlling this. You're just running as fast as you can. Now, you can regain a semblance of control if you lose sight of the thing that's filling you with panic. But as long as you see it, you run. You run as fast as you can, as straight away as you can, away from this thing. If it corners you, you cower. You just sit there, helpless, unable to do anything against the fear of this creature. The thing about fear is cumulative. Whatever the greatest fear you have, when you get another level of it, it drops you down. So if I'm shaken and become shaken by another source, I'm frightened. If I'm frightened and get shaken, I'm panicked. If I'm frightened, become panicked. If I'm shaken and become frightened, well, that's driving me directly to panic. Frightened's the worst one, and I'm adding to that one. So you can see how fear itself compounds upon you, driving you deeper into it. But that's it for today. So I talked about some more special abilities. I talked about some minor ones, death effects. I talked about some ones that are simple, but should know about. Immunities, vulnerabilities, resistances. And then the 2 big ones, energy drain, and of course, fear. Both of these are powerful effects that you will face at some point in time in your career. Powerful undead use negative energy, and fear can grip you at the most drastic of times. Things like dragons just have auras of fear, bringing terror down upon you just by their presence. So you can see how both of these things are very important to talk about. In the next episode, hopefully, we may finish up talking about special abilities, and then talk about conditions, which we actually mentioned many conditions already. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you would say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It shows support the channel, the empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you can always check out my Patreon. Link in the description below. There's some great rewards there. It helps to grow and improve the channel and the empire. Regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.